Hey Retrospectors, did you know we are a completely independent show and we rely on your donations to keep going?
And did you know that our Club Retrospectors supporters on Patreon get an ad-free podcast feed, an exclusive Sunday episode, and weekly bonus bits?
If you didn't know, well, now you do. And here's one more fun fact. For our third birthday and for a limited time only, we are discounting annual memberships by 16%.
And it's risk-free. There's a 7-day free trial. Just head to patreon.com/retrospectors.
That's patreon.com/retrospectors.
And now, on with the show.
It's May 29th, 1942, and another remarkable event is about to be uncovered by Arion, Rebecca, and Olly, the Retrospectors.
When I heard that it was today in history, in 1942, that White Christmas was recorded, I was amused but not that surprised by the summer scheduling. Because, we all know that's how showbiz works, right? You record your Christmas hits in the summer, then you release them in December. But guess what? The recording that Bing Crosby made today, the biggest selling song of all time, wasn't released in December. It was released to coincide with the film Holiday Inn in August.
And he recorded it at the Radio Recorder Studio in Los Angeles, where on this day in 1942, the temperature was a balmy 21 degrees. He had accompaniment from the John Scott Trotter Orchestra, backing vocals from the Ken Darby Singers, and the session took only 18 minutes. The reason for that was, well, the music industry was a bit less sophisticated. It didn't take so long to lay things down, but also they were recording 12 songs from the Holiday Inn soundtrack for a soundtrack album. They had no idea White Christmas was going to be an enormous breakout hit. At the time, the ballad Be Careful, It's My Heart was predicted to be the big hit of the album because Holiday Inn, despite the fact that it is now associated with Christmas and is shown at Christmas, is not...
hotels.
And hotels, it's not an explicitly Christmassy movie. In case you haven't seen it, as the title suggests, it's a multi-festivity film. The whole premise is that Bing's character plans to open a Holiday Inn, not the mid-budget hotel chain, but an actual inn that opens at holiday times only. And so the story follows the characters from one Christmas to the next, so there is Christmas in it, but scenes are set at various holidays, like Valentine's Day, Independence Day, Lincoln's birthday.
I'm not surprised that it was the Valentine's Day song they thought would be the hit, though, not the Lincoln's birthday song.
Well, everything about the song seems non-seasonal because Irving Berlin wrote White Christmas in 1940, and legends differ as to where and how. Some say he wrote it at poolside at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona, which is a reasonable hypothesis considering the song's wishing for wintry weather rather than saying, I'm enjoying this wintry weather. It's saying, how great will it be when the snow comes. Some people say, though, that that's just a good story, and other historians say that Berlin knew from the beginning that the song was going to be a massive hit. Others say that he brought it to producer-director Mark Sandrich, kind of assuming that it was going to be an amusing little number. And likewise, apparently, Bing Crosby himself is said to have found the song only merely adequate at first and only came around to it gradually and then ultimately full-throatedly after it became entirely synonymous with him and his character.
Yeah, I think all of that slightly undermines Irving Berlin's incredible talent as a songwriter, doesn't it? Because the thing is, he could toss out something like this and think, it's a trifle, it's fine, and actually have kind of accidentally written a classic because he was one of the great American songwriters. And yet, even despite that, he really isn't the person that on paper you would think would be the guy to write the definitive American Christmas song. He was a Jew for a start, and he was Russian. He was born in Russia and had no experience of Christmas growing up because the Russian Orthodox Church weren't that keen on sharing Christmas festivities like the Americans do. It was only when he went to the States that he saw Christmas as a secular holiday for the first time, something that he could be involved with. And then when he came to very cynically write this musical where we'll write a song for every possible occasion and see which one takes, it was an opportunity to, for the first time really, put those very simple, secular, inclusive values into a Christmas song that everybody from any background could get along with, because it doesn't at any point mention anything to do with Jesus, and it's warm and nostalgic.
Yeah, Berlin was once asked how a member of the Jewish faith could write such a song, and his response was, "I wrote it as an American." So his thinking was, this isn't me writing a song about another religion. It's just about the fun celebration that we all do at wintertime.
Yeah, just really creating a new canon of secular Christmas music that has pretty much displaced hymns outside of church services at Christmas time. And actually, for good measure, the Holiday Inn soundtrack also puts Berlin's stamp on the second biggest Christian festival with the song Easter Parade, later reused in the eponymous Fred Astaire, Judy Garland vehicle, as well as Let's Start the New Year Right, I've Got Plenty to Be Thankful For, that was Thanksgiving, and the all-purpose Happy Holiday. There was also, I feel like I should mention Lincoln's birthday, we talked about being one of the occasions. That was also the scene in the movie where they sing the song Abraham for Lincoln's birthday, and unfortunately they are in blackface. That's the reason that Holiday Inn is usually shown a little bit less on TV, and if it is shown, it's with that scene removed. Because you might be thinking, because this is confusing, the song is in the film White Christmas, which stars Bing Crosby again. That film was released in 1954. It is originally from the 1942 film Holiday Inn, also starring Bing Crosby.
Because it was a massive hit. That's why they gave him another opportunity to sing it again. People loved it so much.
Cut out the other holidays.
Yeah, Hollywood was never one to let a money-making opportunity go by. And, at this time, the song served as the inspiration for that film, White Christmas, starring Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen. And later in the 2000s, that film would then be transferred to the Broadway stage. So you had a stage play of a movie made from a song from a movie at that stage. It is the inception of Christmases.
Okay, so why was it such a massive hit that it went from being the Christmas song on a soundtrack of songs about holidays that no one thought was going to be the hit to being such a big hit that they made a movie just based around giving Bing Crosby the opportunity to sing it again? There's a couple of answers to that. One is the kind of Christmas Carol type thing, the Charles Dickens book where we talked about that, where buying the book became like a souvenir for the holiday itself. I mean, this was a physical product that you wanted to actually have in your house and wheel out at Christmas time or gift to someone. And that meant purchasing this record was more valuable than purchasing something that wasn't tied to any particular day. And that's part of the reason that it took. But there's another reason as well, which is bigger, which is that this was a huge hit on the US Army's overseas radio stations. It got massive airplay on Forces Radio because, think about it, that nostalgic vibe, dreaming of life back home, talking to an audience which is young GIs, some of them teenagers, really resonated. And as a result of that, because remember, this is 1942, this is the middle of the war, this was number one at Christmas 1942, but it was also number one in 1943 and 1944 as well. It was there, All I Want for Christmas Is You.
And actually, the first time Bing Crosby ever performed it was months before he recorded it. It was on his NBC radio show, The Kraft Music Hall, and he sung it on Christmas Day 1941, just a few weeks after Pearl Harbor. If you think about how cultural moments tended to hit hard in the aftermath of 9/11, TV shows doing special episodes, etc., it's perhaps comparable to that. Emotions are raw. But it was the following year that it took off again, and then again and again. Finally, at the 1943 Academy Awards, Irving Berlin had been invited to present the Oscar for Best Original Song, the category for which he was nominated. So you can imagine he wasn't exactly hopeful of his chances, especially he'd already been nominated 5 times without winning. So imagine his confusion when he opened the envelope and saw his own name. He quipped, "I'm glad to present the award. I've known him for a long time." But it turned out behind the scenes, he actually felt really embarrassed. What an odd situation to be in. And after this incident, Oscars protocol was changed so that presenters of the category could not also be a nominee.
That seems like an obvious one.
Yeah, that seems totally like it should have been ironed out before this moment.
But him performing it on the radio in 1941, I mean, that is the answer to the question that I posed in the intro. How could it be that a song released in August becomes the biggest Christmas song ever? It's because the audience already knew it. So they knew, millions of people heard it in Christmas 1941, then waited 7 months to be able to buy it, and then made it Christmas number one the following year.
And yet its success was both unprecedented and also a bit unexpected, so much so that Decca's original disc, from which all the other copies were struck, finally just wore out from overuse. So in 1947, Crosby had to go back into the studio to record a new version. Accordingly, the version that we all hear today is likely not to be the 1942 original that was so popular that it shot to the top of the charts and just was listened to by everyone. But the 47 master recording has no risk of being worn out because it's currently in the permanent collection of the Library of Congress.
I love that fact, that the version of the song you're thinking of right now isn't the version of the song that was the massive hit. It's like the whole world only knows Five's version of We Will Rock You.
Yeah.
And I mean, Crosby himself grew to be a bit dismissive of White Christmas. You can imagine he probably got sick of it. But I do think his performance is key to the appeal, because I think a lot of Christmas songs have at least one cover that is regarded as acceptable compared to the original. Like, if you're listening to Let It Snow, do you care if it's Dean Martin or Frank Sinatra's version? Like Jingle Bell Rock, there's Bobby Helms or Brenda Lee. It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. Obviously, the Andy Williams version is familiar. But if you hear the Michael Bublé one, you don't think, oh no, this is wrong. There isn't really an equivalent. No one has covered White Christmas and made it familiar enough that we see it as an acceptable alternative to
the New Kids on the Block version is the connoisseur's choice, obviously.
Tomorrow.
That's what they should have called the town. Chocolatey Chocolate Town.
They should.
Ditch the ads and get a Sunday episode when you join Club Retrospectors. Patreon.com/retrospectors.